What's going on, everybody? It's day 46 in the garden. Here's our parameters for this week. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on, what changes we're seeing, and everything else in the garden. Let's get into it. It's day 46, and sorry I didn't get you a day 42 update. I've been slammed at the bangers, at the office bangers, at the warehouse. We've had back-to-back harvests, and I have another harvest coming up next week. So I've just been super swamped. You know, I'm on a one-man mission out here. You know, I operate all these lights by myself. So it's been pretty much a headache and a blessing all at the same time. You know, I'm just happy that I get to do this stuff. Happy that I still make you guys videos and that everybody's watching. But yeah, it's day 46 in here and everything's looking absolutely stunning. I mean, from the King Louis, all the way to the Gorillas. We go take a look at the Skywalkers over here. Skywalkers are stacking. You know, and day 46 is usually when ripening starts to begin. You know, we're going into week 7-ish. So you see our calyxes and pistils. Our pistils are receding a little bit. Calyxes are starting to swell for us. And everything's just putting on weight at this point. I think we're pretty much done bulking. We might get a little bit more out of the OGs. So you could see everything still has a bunch of white pistils on it, you know, which is what you want going into day 46. That means that everything is going accordingly. You're not running your EC too high, and you're not forcing these things into any kind of stress that is going to cause them to start ripening early for us. Let's take a look at these phenos real quick. Phenos are looking fantastic, guys. Look at these girls. They're just boulders. They're boulders, guys. They're boulders. I'm very happy with these. These things look like they're going to yield like crazy. They're already getting a little bit of color on them, so I'm happy with that. This is the other phenotype, my less favorable one. Not as icy, not as nice a structure, not as nice a smell. You know, almost smells like sativa, but it's kind of funky though. Not gonna lie. We'll see what happens when it comes out. But these push cakes though, this number 7, the push cake number 7 is fucking killing it, guys. This is next to the King Louis, so that's that, and then that's the King Louis right there, which is pretty much like a SFVOG, you know, an 818, old school, really piney, skunky, gassy, you know, OG. So just a classic OG, you know what I mean? Skywalker, little more earthy, little more fuel to it. Not so much pine, not so much skunk, you know. So another classic OG, but also great, looking great. So we're getting a little bit of purple stems on back there on the E85, and then we got a little bit on the Skywalker and on the King Louis. What that is from is pretty much the plant putting a protective coating on its stem because the light intensity was too high. So the thing about these OGs is they were all bred under HIDs, guys. So these are decade-old strains bred under before LED technology got to where it is. We all growing under HPS. You know, that was pretty much the only option if you wanted to put out quality. You can try, people run metal halide checkerboards with HPS. There's multiple different lighting options, but in order in order to get premium and keep up with everybody else, you were running HID. And a lot of the strains and genetics that are grown from that time were bred under HID, which is, you know, high intensity discharge lights, and they put off a different spectrum. So a lot of these plants, when they get under this super high PPFD of the LEDs, and they have that really blue spectrum, really white spectrum, full spectrum, these lights are full spectrum, but they're putting out intense micromoles, and the plants just tend to react to those a little funny. And if you could see, so like, look, if you look here, you see that half of this stem is purple, the half that's getting beat by the light, and then you come on this side and none of it is purple. So, and then repeat process over here. The further we get away from where our PPFD is most intense, the less purpling that we're seeing. So you don't need to panic about getting some purple stems sometimes. It is week 6, so we went ahead and lowered the intensity on the light this week. We went from 100% down to 80 on the Skywalkers, on the King Louis, and on the E85s. The Gelato 41 is a little closer to the new generation, so I'm not sure if it was bred under HIDs, but it doesn't seem to react quite significantly, quite as drastic with the purple stemming and putting on, like, you know, the purple stem is just a sunblock, just protective coating to help protect it from all of the photons that it's getting beat down with. Same thing over here with this. So this plant right here, guys, if you're wondering why this plant looks a little different from everything else, this is a King Louis right here, and this is being hand watered. So I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen, which is why I never really talked about it in the old videos. And I figured maybe it was going to have to get culled and get pulled out, but it is producing fantastic. I'm super stoked with it. Like, look at the chunk on it. And I've just been coming in and putting about 1,500 mils, 1,000 mils, 1,500 mils of water through it a day, hand watering. And the good thing is that it's a King Louis. So the King Louis does not drink as much as everything else. I mean, you can run water through it and it'll be fine, but it doesn't drink quite as much. And since I flip these plants 12 days on 12 days of veg, then they don't have such a huge root ball inside of the rock wool. So it's actually been, you know, reacting quite well. Hopefully we get, like, you know, 80 100 grams off of that one plant right there. But it's super chunky, you know, and it's dense, and it's not growing weird. I've had to hand water plants in the past, but like with thirsty girls like the Gelatos and the Skywalkers, they never really made it past, you know, day 30 before they start looking weird, and I'm just pulling them out of the garden because they're just wasting space, wasting light, and wasting time. But so talking about the light intensity, so you could see what I was saying from the last video. All of these tops that are really close to the light are all getting a lot of foxtailing. And normally I don't mind foxtailing on my OGs because it gives it a nice structure, but I don't like the spacing on these things. And if you look a little lower, so, you know, something like this, something like this, something like this, or that girl right there, you know, that's kind of the ideal range where you want these plants are happy. And also those three, so that one, and that one are all in between the lights where the intensity's not quite as much, and that one's kind of hanging out in the middle aisle over there. So I think they produced a little bit better. So I think what I could have got away with was running that light at 80% the whole time. Let me get this out of the way here, guys, sorry. Running that light at 80% there the whole time, and they probably would have been fine. I I've run them at 100% at the big warehouse multiple times, and haven't really had a problem. But you know, since they're so tall, I'm battling between running them at 100% in order to get light to penetrate through the canopy because of its intensity, you know. And you come and look at some of these lowers, like look at these lowers, they have much better structure on them, you know. And then as soon as we get to the top where the light's the most intense, they start getting a little goofy. So anyway, it's been a battle between running them at 100% in order to get the light penetration, or running them at 80% and getting a little bit of goofy growth. But now that I lowered them down to 80%, they should fill in and finish nicely. I'm not seeing too many detrimental effects as far as light bleaching or weird fade or anything like that. On the E85s back there, I do have a little bit of fading going on some of the fan leaves, just because of the intensity of the light. So I really needed to lower that back there. Also, the same thing, I've ran all of these strains at 100% at all of my other facilities, but like I said, this time, guys, we are running a little bit lower of an EC. We're pushing a little bit more water through these girls. I'm trying to really maintain an EC between 4 and 6 as far as my runoff goes, and most of the time I can push drybacks a little bit more, and I'll see an EC spike of, you know, 7, 8, sometimes even 9, and then just adjust accordingly. But what I've been doing is monitoring EC every single day, as opposed to in the past I would just monitor weekly, just to make sure that the watering schedule is working accordingly and doing what we want it to do. So I would come in every week, check the EC runoff, make the adjustments, come in the next day and check it again, make sure where we're at, and then just let that ride out all the way throughout the week. So this run, I've been checking it every day and making little adjustments according to that, and adding either a manual watering through the drippers, or like I said, we are hand watering every week. And by hand watering every week, that's really just bringing the EC back down and resetting it, and then just letting it stack a little bit throughout the week by giving it the proper amount of drybacks. And if you go look at the watering schedule from last video, that's kind of where we're at, steady in bulk. Coming towards the end of this week, what we're going to be doing is cutting a P2 shot, so a P2 midday watering, a maintenance shot. We'll be cutting it towards the end of the day. So we're going to take our dryback before lights off from 3 hours. We'll probably be taking it to about 4 or 5 hours, and then slowly decrease our input EC. So our input EC right now is going in at about 2.5, 2.7, right around there. And we're slowly going to lower that. I'm going to try to feed. So I have like 2 days left till we hit 3 days left until we hit day 49. And then day 49, I'm going to come through, I'm going to flush with pure water for the first time, and then I'm going to start the cake. And what that's going to do is just slowly drop the EC inside the blocks and get these girls to start finishing. But at the same time, increasing drybacks and keeping the same amount of water running through them, but we're going to really push that water through them early in the day. So that way we are getting that flush happening early in the day, but still giving them that dryback and those signals like, hey, we're running out of water, like let's go ahead and start finishing up a little bit. And that's going to do two things. It's going to get them to start finishing and really send the signals the generative signals to put on their defenses. You know, they're getting late in their lives now. They have not been seeded, that no pollen has reached them. They're at maximum frustration. They are sexually frustrated. They have not been pollinated. Their calyxes are just going to start swelling up more and more and more to try and catch pollen in a last-ditch effort to catch some pollen and make some seeds. And what we want to do is encourage that, and and the way that we encourage that is by decreasing food and increasing drybacks. Now, it's a tricky balance to increase drybacks and not spike your EC, especially if you're still feeding them food. And the thing about rock wool is you can't really flush with pure water for 2 weeks because these cubes get zapped of their salts and every other nutrient super fast. So what we want to do is continue to send the vegetative cues early in the day, and then just by flushing, not flushing, but just feeding them the same amount, if not just a little bit more. So we're going to be moving the watering that we're taking away at the end of the day. We're going to be moving that amount of water to the front of the day to push that water through the blocks, and then allow them to dry back longer to kind of keep the EC steady after we've began lowering it. So does that make sense? I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense. I hope it does. If not, just ask some questions down in the comments. I'm trying to explain this in the most simplistic way as possible. It's really not that complicated, guys. The same thing that we're doing with our hand watering, we're just doing with our irrigation, because a lot of these plants are eating at different rates. So trying to balance that out is best to just keep them on drippers and let them run their course. So we are coming towards the finish line, and things are changing a little bit in the garden right now. Our humidity is going to begin to drop, so we're already at about 60% right now, as you can see. We're going to drop a little bit more, really push those drybacks, really get these girls to start transpiring a little bit more by pressing them with a higher VPD and just making them drink more water, essentially. And the only way to do that is by lowering the humidity in the room, because if the VPD is too low and you don't have enough pressure getting put on the plants and their leaf surface temperature versus the room temperature versus the humidity that's in the room, then they're not going to be drinking as much and really not be able to give you the drybacks that you're looking for. So the struggle is always to lower the humidity without raising the temperature too high, because once you turn your dehumidifiers on, you're going to be putting heat into the room, and the hard part is having enough cooling in order to maintain the temperature that you're looking for to stay in the VPD range that you're trying to be at. Now, that's always been the struggle, especially in this room, especially during summer, because of the amount of cooling that we have. You know, I do have a 5-ton central AC blowing in here, but there's only one vent coming into here. So, you know, this one vent is pulled in with this max fan, and we are running LEDs, and we are lowering the lights, so the lights are not putting out as much heat as they once were before that. So we do have the benefit of that. And I did repair the AC, or not repair it, but I did maintenance it. I added some Freon. Like I said, guys, once you become an actual grower and start doing this as a livelihood, you begin to become an AC guy, a plumber, an electrician, all amateur level entry level in all these positions in order to keep your grow operating and not have to spend a fortune paying these contractors to come out to fix this stuff. So I went ahead and filled, I see my AC guy do it enough times, I went ahead and filled my Freon myself, and that worked out great. For those of you guys wondering why I haven't been making videos at my big facility, mainly my main reason is I want to be able to show you guys something that is relatable to a majority of my viewers that are growing at home, that are growing in tents, that are growing in smaller spaces. And the only way really to do that is to show you guys the smaller spaces that I am growing in. The smaller spaces that don't have as much professional equipment in them, that don't have all the bells and whistles, and just have the simple basics and your essentially your entry level ABC, your ABC fundamentals. And the fundamentals that are going on in this room are super basic, super rudimentary. I'm trying not to complicate things as much as possible and just make this as relatable as possible to everybody that's growing in a smaller space. And if you want to learn how to set up one of these grow rooms yourselves, you can go ahead and check out Let's Build a Grow Room, under $1,000, and pretty much I'll show you exactly how this whole room is built out. Now, of course, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money on your lights, on your pumps, on obviously your rock wool, your plants. All that stuff is not included in that, but if you want, go ahead and go down in the playlist of season 2, and I think it's like the first video, because I made that video before I started this run. So like I said, we're lowering temperatures, we're lowering humidity, getting down to about 60%. We're gonna try to lower the temperature to about 73 degrees. Best I could do in here is get the canopy level at about 74. Right now we're sitting at like 78, I think, right at the canopy level. But that's because I lowered this fan to make you guys this video, because it's loud when it's fully on. And once I crank it back up, that'll lower a little bit. And also the dehumidifier's on right now, and you can see we're right under 60%. The dead band on my dehumidifier is at 5%. So essentially, it's going to turn on it's going to turn on once it gets 5% above where I want it, and turn off once it gets 5% below. So it's going to run a little bit longer to get me down to about 55% before it shuts off, and then let it spike. And you're just going to go through these waves of about a range of about 10% relative humidity. And that's pretty much what we're going to live with. That's what we're going to be happy with, and run it all the way to about day 56, where we're going to lower the temperatures once again, lower the humidity once again, and really get these girls to start ripening. Good thing is that with this lower EC, I think there's just a little bit less nitrogen, a little bit less calcium getting pumped into these girls. And we're already seeing a little bit of senescence going on with the Gelato 41s, which is crazy because I always struggle to get that strain to get color, and it's already putting on a little bit of color. So that's great. I'm super stoked about that. Hopefully we can get color deeper into the canopy, since we do have the UCLs on that side, and hopefully get some more uniformity inside of the middle canopy and the lower canopy, because of the photons that are going to be bouncing around down there. But I think that's about it, guys. PPMs on the CO2 are also getting lowered this week, down to 900. We're at about 1150 right now. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. Everything in here is doing fantastic. I'm super stoked. I'm very excited. I'm glad that everything is cooperating and running accordingly. The only goofy stuff I see is on some of these King Louis, you know, but that's just the the gamble that you play when you're running a bunch of different OGs. I mean, a bunch of different strains. You have to, especially if you're not going to have them, all in separate zones. You know, ideally, I would like to have just one strain per table, which is what I do usually at the warehouse, but I don't, because in here what I'm trying to do is get everything on a similar schedule as far as waterings and see exactly what it is that I'm seeing, the responses from those waterings, from the light intensity, from all the different tactics that we're using to complete this grow. We want to see exactly what it is that's going to happen with these plants. So I know now that maybe I should try to run my King Louis on a lower wattage, try to keep them a little bit more squat, which I did try, guys. I told you guys I topped these things multiple times. Same thing with the Skywalkers. I topped them multiple times, and they just stretch and stretch and stretch, and it's very annoying. But it's a fan favorite. The OGs, these OGs right here, are just classic SFV OGs that everybody loves. So we run them, and we deal with what it is that comes out on the other side. So for the King Louis, I think a little less water and a little less light. I think they would have liked that a little bit better. Preferably to run them under my HPS room, which is what I'm doing right now. I have a table that I just transplanted after that last harvest into the HID room, the HPS room, and also the Skywalkers, same thing. But the Skywalkers drink twice. Like, the Skywalkers drink more than everything in this room. Every morning I go to check these Skywalkers. They are lighter than everything else, but they are stacking and they like the higher EC. So lower EC for the King Louis, less water, and higher EC for the Skywalkers, more water. Very interesting. I've actually had these plants react very, very funny when I underwater them, and they tend to just continue to stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. So yeah, we just got to make adjustments, guys. All right, guys, I realize that I'm kind of just rambling on at this point, but you guys get the point. We're transitioning out of bulk, little by little, lowering these waterings, increasing the dry backs, and really just sending the signals for these girls to finish. They should start producing a little bit more resin. They should start putting on a little bit more, just all the secondary metabolites are just going to begin to increase at this point and really finish and swell up nice for us. As long as we stay steady where we're at, we should have a bountiful harvest with quality products coming out. But thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you. Leave the comments, questions down below. Sorry if I went off on a tangent in this damn video, but you know, I just turned this thing on and start recording and start talking to you guys as if I was talking to somebody that was asking me questions about the garden. And I don't know exactly what the questions are that are going through your guys' heads, so I kind of just talk about what I think I would ask if I was in this garden. But happy farming. Guys, have a good one. Like, sub, talk to you later. Peace.